A lot of gamers, as it turns out, have various physical or mental issues, at least as far as it comes to core gamers. And I don't think that's necessarily so surprising. When you think about it, gaming is a relatively solitary pursuit. It's a controlled environment. If you're physically disabled, it's something amazing and distracting that you can do that doesn't require a particularly fit body. You know, even if you've got problems with hand-eye coordination or other issues, there's ways around it. Um, I've certainly found this to be true of the kind of core gamers that I know. There's lots of people who've got various issues, but there's plenty of people that don't as well. Speaking for myself, I suffer from depression, and looking back, I can see how I've had that most of my life. I can also see how it's been reflected in my interest in games, because for all that we play games for excitement and a feeling of danger, um, a sense of accomplishment and a distraction, as much as it's all to do with that, it's a controlled environment. It's safe. It's like riding a roller coaster as opposed to being in a car crash. So I think for a lot of people with various issues, games can be a way of experiencing things that we are otherwise loath to try or that we find difficult to do. Um, it's and the escapism is an important part as well. If you've got problems and issues, then it's nice to step aside from that and do something else for a while. Um, Personally, when I'm having pretty bad bouts of depression, it can be really hard to concentrate on anything, even conventional games. But I've found that playing more loose, freeform, and creative games like Minecraft in particular can be pretty zen, and they can help me lift myself out of that fog for a bit, or at least step outside of it for a while. Just Minecraft particularly, I've noticed this with. I think it's because it's a low pressure game. It's creative, but it doesn't require a huge amount of thought. It's easy to play. It's not too complicated on the eye. The music score actually I find particularly relaxing. In tabletop games, I've noticed this as well. Lots of people involved there, even though it's a social enterprise, are people who are either somewhere on the autism spectrum to some minor degree, though Asperger's is being challenged a bit lately. But yeah, people with social issues, anxiety issues, depression issues. Role-playing games are a social medium in which they can feel comfortable, because I think, and this is me speculating, I think it's because games have rules in a way that casual conversation and socialization do not. So in that way they provide a structure. If someone's really, really bad at social interactions, they can practice in a game, which again is a safe environment thing, and they can also get some kind of grasp on what's going on via the structure of the game. That there are rules, there are things you can fall back on, there are ways of doing things. You know, now we're going to talk for a bit. Now we're going to roll initiative. Now we're going to do combat. This is how I'm going to describe what I can do. The rules state what is and isn't okay. So that there's hard and fast lines and boundaries, but you can stretch those boundaries, play different games that are less rules oriented, and certainly for people with sort of mild learning problems or mild socialization problems that I've had in my games over the years, I, well, I'm biased, but I think role-playing games have really helped them. For people who had trouble at school, it gave them a reason to learn and to understand, a motivation to care about reading and writing and about arithmetic, um, and about expressing themselves. And I think it definitely improved their skills in all those regards. With people with socialization issues, I think that structured environment and the fact that it was being done for fun really helped some of those kinds of people as well. I mean, yes, you run into people who still have these issues when you go to conventions and so on. They don't understand boundaries, they're awkward, they're too fixated on the rules and so on. But one thing I've always loved about the gaming community is that it's so open to these kinds of people, and it's so welcoming, and it's willing to give them a chance. And I worry somewhat in the way that games communities, nerd communities and so on have gone mainstream, and that these people who have found a home in and amongst the rest of us are now being marginalised within geek communities, which used to be a safe haven for them from the same kind of judgment and nastiness that they had outside. And I think that's something we need to be wary of, especially since a lot of the punishment and the nastiness and the judgment and the criticism and the piss taking that's going on now of people who may have these kinds of issues is coming at the hands of people who say they want to make these communities more progressive and more welcoming, when what they're often doing in practice, unfortunately, is squeezing out the people who had actually already found a safe haven there. But it's all something to think about, and I think computer games, role-playing games, have a place as being more than games, in that we can use them to help people to play out scenarios and so on, as kind of stealth education or stealth mental health care. But I think we need to remember first and foremost that they need to be fun, because after all it's the fun aspect that has allowed games to be such a positive force in people's lives. The moment you tell someone something's educational, they don't want to play it anymore. And I think the same will be true of a lot of other factors as well. So games are great, let's keep them that way. Peace out.